Linear regression. What this is a way of taking a set of data and using our calculator to find a line that best fits that data. And this is really handy because there are a lot of things that are very close to being linear in the real world when we collect data, but they aren't actually all on the same line. So as far as using a point and slope and all that, it doesn't necessarily work well. But we can take all these points and put them in our calculator and end up with a prediction, basically, a tool to predict what's going to happen in the future if the linear pattern that's happening continues. So for our example, we're going to use our calculator. I'm using a TI-84 or a TI-83. That kind of thing should be the same kind of steps. If you're using a different kind of calculator, you can search online and find instructions on how to do this pretty easily. So what we want to do is go to second stat. We want to go to regular stat and click edit. And when we do that, it shows up basically what looks like an either empty or filled in table. If your table's filled in, you can go up to L1 and press clear and then enter. It'll clear the list for you. Okay, so in L1 we want to put our years. You can either put in the actual years, or a lot of times we start the first year at 0, and then all of the years later on are how many years after our initial year. Either way basically gives us the same data, it just gives us a slightly different equation, and usually we want the equation where we've done 0, 5, 10, and so on. In L2 we put our second column, which is the gross domestic product in trillions of dollars. And once you have that, you want to do second quit and go back to your stat menu and go over to calculate. And inside of this calculate menu are all kinds of helpful things. So we want to do linear regression, and we want it to show us in the form ax plus b, because that's like slope-intercept form. So you press enter, and then you may have some options on what you can pick, and then you'll want to press enter at the end of that so that it will actually calculate. And once you're done, it should give you y equals ax plus b, and then a and b. And so if we write this as a actual equation, it'd be y equals, I get 0.405, and then b is really long, and just keep in mind the more decimals you write down, the more accurate your prediction will be. So this is actually all of the decimal I got. So we take that, and now we want to predict what it'll be in 2016. The first thing to do is figure out if 1980 was year 0, what year number is 2016. So 2016 minus 1980 tells us we're talking about year 36. So what we're going to do is plug in 36 right here. Depending on your calculator, it may actually kind of save that as an equation to make it easier, but worst case scenario, you have to type in 0.405 times 36 plus that big long decimal. And you don't have to type in all of that decimal, but the more you type in, the more accurate it is. So I get 16.7, and we'll stop it there. That's what they rounded to here, was 1 decimal. And that's trillions of dollars for our units. Now, depending on what kind of calculator you use, when it gives you that A and B information, it may also give you an R value. So that's what the bottom part of this is talking about. That R value is called the correlation coefficient, and it should be a number that's between -1 and 1. It tells you basically how good our line is at fitting the data, because sometimes the data they give us is all spread out like crazy, and so a line like this through it, it's not necessarily a great prediction. But if all of our points are like really close together like this, and then we draw a line, well, that's going to be a better prediction. And so the R value tells us if it's close to 1 or -1, we have a strong correlation. The closer it is to 0, the weaker the correlation. And the word correlation in general just means that there is a relationship going on between your X and your Y. If you can't create a good line of best fit, then that means that your two things aren't really correlated. But if you can create a good line of best fit, then chances are those two things may have some kind of relationship that's affecting each other.